Hello, my daring viewers. Before the terror begins, I've got one request. Hit the like and subscribe button and share this video. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and let me know what you think of the story. Let's get started. When I turned 18, I decided to throw a Halloween party at my parents' house. It was supposed to be a small private gathering. I made it clear that no one should bring uninvited guests. That was one of the rules my parents set before leaving for the weekend. The other rule was that the house had to be spotless, after the party cleaner than before it started. I invited about 50 people, and around 40 actually came. The party began around 6 in the evening. Just as it started getting dark, we set things up so guests could hang out both in the backyard and on the first floor. My parents had left me some cash to buy drinks and snacks for everyone, which I kept in the kitchen. I told them it would be an alcohol-free party, though I doubt they believed that. One of my older friends brought his DJ setup, and by the time it was fully dark, the place was alive. Everyone seemed to follow the no strangers rule because I recognized every face. Most people came up to say hi as they arrived. I did not drink much myself, since it was my responsibility to keep things under control. But everyone else was getting pretty tipsy as the night went on. At one point, a friend came outside from the kitchen holding some food. He asked me who the guy in the skeleton costume inside the house was. I told him I had not seen anyone in that costume, so I went in to check. A few people were hanging out in the kitchen, and I asked if they had noticed someone wearing a skeleton outfit. One of them said, yeah, they had seen him wandering around like he was snooping. That made me uneasy. I asked if anyone had invited him or knew who he was, but no one did. I looked around the house until I spotted him walking down the stairs. I asked, "Hey, who are you?" He replied, "Mike, I was just using the bathroom upstairs." His voice was deep, older sounding, and he had a solid, stocky build. I asked who invited him, and he said Tom, but I did not know any Tom. When I asked who that was, he did not answer. I told him to take off his mask, but he ignored me, walked right past and went out the front door. I ran upstairs to make sure nothing had been stolen. All the doors were still closed except the bathroom door. After checking the rooms, it looked like everything was fine. I locked the front door afterward and told my friends about what happened. I went outside to ask others if anyone had brought that guy, but no one had any idea who he was. Eventually, I just let it go. By midnight, the party started dying down. Most guests left, and a few close friends stayed to help clean up. Once everything was done, it actually felt like the night had gone well. My friend Vinny decided to crash on the living room couch. I got ready for bed, brushed my teeth, changed, then came downstairs to hang out with him for a bit. We had a few drinks and watched funny videos on TV. My little sister, who was 14, was asleep by then. She had not been part of the party. She stayed in her room all night. Vinny and I kept the volume low, but after a while, we both heard noises from upstairs. They sounded like footsteps. I figured maybe my sister had woken up to use the bathroom, but after a moment I realized I never heard her door open. Curious, I went upstairs. I knocked on her door, and she did not answer. When I peeked in, she was still asleep. That is when I noticed my parents' bedroom door was not completely closed. I remembered shutting it earlier, but now it opened easily when I pushed it. I looked inside briefly without switching on the light, and as I was backing away, I noticed movement through the gap of the door. Through that narrow crack, I saw him, the same man in the skeleton costume. I did not scream or react. I just acted like I had not seen him and gently shut the door. Then I went downstairs quietly and told Vinny that the guy from earlier was still inside the house. Vinny grabbed his phone and called the police while I went back upstairs to get my sister. I woke her carefully and told her what was happening, reminding her to stay quiet. We went downstairs and met Vinny by the back door. From there, we slipped into the backyard, cut around the side of the house, and went straight to our neighbor's place. We rang the bell several times before he finally opened up and let us wait inside until the police arrived. Before they got there, though, the intruder had already escaped. When the officers checked the house, they found that the window in my parents' bedroom was open. My dad's closet door was too, the one where he kept his safe. It seemed like whoever that man was, he knew exactly where the safe was. Maybe he had tried to break into it or take it entirely. We realized later how easy it had been for him to get in. He must have just walked into the party, pretending to be a guest. We never found out who he was, but it was clear he was older, and someone who knew I would be hosting that night. My sister ended up telling our parents everything, and needless to say, that was the last party I was ever allowed to have at their house. Back in 2016, when I was 15, I decided that Halloween would be my last year, going trick-or-treating, so I wanted to make it memorable. My mom is pretty relaxed about most things, so she let me turn it into a full weekend event. The plan was simple. The night before Halloween, I would have a sleepover with my friends, Ryan and Blake, skip school the next day, go trick-or-treating with them that evening, and then have another sleepover afterward, this time just with my girlfriend Lily. This story covers both nights, so I will go through everything as it happened. Our basement had recently been remodeled into a kind of hangout space, so naturally that is where we wanted to spend the night. A narrow hallway led down to the main area, but the light switch for that hallway did not work, which gave it a weird, slightly creepy feeling, though we thought that fit the Halloween mood perfectly. My mom baked us cookies before heading to bed, and we settled into the basement around 11 p.m. We had just finished watching Scream, and for our next movie I chose Paranormal Activity since none of us had seen it before. I remember pausing it not even a minute in, because the motion sensor light in the backyard suddenly switched on, lighting up the entire room and ruining the atmosphere. I waited for it to go off, and when it did, I started the movie again. 30 seconds later it turned back on. I was getting irritated by this point. Ryan asked why it kept doing that, and I told him I had no idea. We waited again until it went off, and I played the movie once more, but not long after the light flicked on for a third time. I finally told them to come upstairs with me, so we could see what was setting it off. We went to the back door and looked outside. The light had just turned off, and the yard looked empty. We waited there for about 5 minutes, expecting to see some movement, but nothing happened. So we went back downstairs and decided to stop the movie altogether, just sitting around chatting and scrolling on our phones instead. A couple of hours passed and everyone had fallen asleep except me. I was lying there on my phone when that same motion light glowed through the window, again the fourth time. Now I felt too tired to care, and assumed it was just some kids playing a prank. Still, it did not sit right with me. I went upstairs to check one more time, but again, there was no one outside. I gave up and went back downstairs to sleep. The next day came and went quickly before I knew it. Halloween night had arrived and my candy bag was filling up. I felt a little nostalgic, realizing this was probably my last time trick or treating, but I tried to enjoy it anyway. I still thought about the weird light from the night before, though I did not mention it to Lily. She scared easily, and I did not want to make her nervous. We were at one of the last houses on our route when Lily suddenly yelped in pain. She said someone had thrown a rock at her. I turned around and saw a man standing about 15 feet behind us, wearing a clown mask. This was during the time when people dressing up as clowns were causing panic all over, so it immediately made me uneasy. I told him to get lost, but he did not move or speak. I looked closer. He seemed like a grown man, not some teenager playing a joke. The mask was the only costume piece he wore. Everything else was just regular clothing. We decided to leave and cut our route short, walking quickly back toward my house. My friends got picked up soon after, and it was just Lily and me left. We dumped our candy out on the basement floor, sorting through it, while she asked if we could watch a movie. So I restarted Paranormal Activity from where we had left off the night before. I remember the exact scene, the part where the guy is walking around the house looking for his girlfriend, when suddenly the screen went black. The dim basement lights shut off at the same time. Lily and I stared at each other, and I realized the power had gone out. That had never happened before, unless there was a storm. I checked the weather app. No rain, no wind, nothing unusual. That made me uneasy. I told Lily to stay downstairs, but she did not want to be alone, so she followed me upstairs. The generator was outside in the backyard, and that is when I started to get a sinking feeling. I remembered the motion light issue and realized I did not have Ryan or Blake with me this time. Just Lily, who was not exactly the brave type. Still, I stepped out into the yard. Everything was quiet except for the crickets. The motion light did not even turn on as we passed it. I walked toward the generator, and just as I got close, I heard a twig snap. Lily and I froze, looking toward the tree line at the back of the yard. The night was still, but it felt like someone was watching us. My stomach tightened. I just wanted to get back inside. We turned around, and as Lily started heading toward the door, I saw him. The same man in the clown mask was standing beside our shed. We locked eyes for a few seconds, and then without warning, he lunged forward, sprinting at us. I grabbed Lily's hand, ran inside, and slammed the back door behind us. We rushed downstairs into the basement and hid behind the bar in the corner. Then it hit me. I had not locked the back door. Almost immediately, we heard a loud slam from upstairs. The house went completely silent. Lily was breathing too loudly, and I had to cover her mouth. I heard slow footsteps coming down the basement stairs, then into the hallway. They stopped near us. I grabbed an empty beer bottle from behind the bar, ready to fight if I had to. The room stayed quiet for what felt like forever. Then we heard sirens outside. I realized that was our chance. I jumped up, ran forward, and swung the bottle at him, but I tripped mid-swing and hit the ground. When I looked up, the masked man was standing over me. My swing must have only glanced him because he barely moved. It seemed like he was about to leave anyway after hearing the sirens. He stared down at me for a moment, then turned and ran upstairs. We heard the back door slam again. I rushed up, unlocked the front door, and let the police in, telling them he had escaped through the yard. They searched everywhere but did not find him to this day. I do not know who that man was. The police never caught him, and I cannot go into that basement alone anymore without feeling uneasy. For a while, Lily and I only hung out at her house instead. All I can do now is be thankful that we made it out unharmed. I will never forget the moment I looked up from the floor and saw that clown mask staring straight down at me. It was Halloween weekend, and this year, it happened to fall on a Saturday. My mom always took Halloween decorating and candy giving way too seriously. It was almost like she thought she was in competition with the neighbors for who could have the most popular house on the block. We lived on a corner lot in a quiet suburban neighborhood, so when we decorated, she made sure to cover not just the front yard, but the side of the house too. Since Halloween landed on a Saturday, kids started trick or treating earlier than usual. The weather, though, was cold and cloudy with rain predicted later in the day. My mom could not seem to grasp that the gloomy weather might be the reason so few kids were out. Instead, she convinced herself that we did not have enough decorations to attract trick-or-treaters. She told me to go up to the attic and grab whatever Halloween bins were left up there. I tried telling her we already had enough out, but she would not let it go until I finally gave in. The attic entrance was right above my room in the upstairs hallway. I pulled down the ladder, climbed up, and switched on the small bulb hanging near the ceiling. We kept our holiday containers in a specific order, so I went straight to where the Halloween ones were. Only 2 bins were left. I opened one, saw a few decorations inside, and figured that would satisfy her. I dragged the plastic container toward the opening and carefully slid it down the ladder. Just before I started climbing down, I thought I heard something on the opposite end of the attic, like a plank of wood creaking under pressure. I looked toward the far wall, where the rest of the storage boxes were stacked. It was an attic, so random creaks were not unusual. I brushed it off, climbed down, and carried the bin downstairs. My mom and I spent the next half hour putting up a few more things in the front yard. The wind had picked up, and the air felt damp, like rain could start any second. Hardly any trick-or-treaters came by. My mom looked disappointed. She had spent hours making candy goodie bags with a mix of different sweets, and now it looked like most of them would go to waste. As the day went on, I went back to my room to play games on my laptop while she stayed downstairs, handing candy to the few kids that showed up. Then it started to drizzle, which pretty much ended the night for trick-or-treating. While I was gaming, I heard another sound from the attic, another crack like something shifting above me. It was not particularly strange, but I made a mental note that it was the second time I had heard something from up there that day. The rain turned heavier, and by nighttime thunder had rolled in. A perfect Halloween storm. I used to be a big gamer as a teenager, and even now, instead of going out on weekends, I would rather stay in playing. That night was no different. I stayed up long after my parents had gone to bed, the sound of rain still steady outside my window. Then I heard it again, this time. It sounded like footsteps coming from directly above my room. I paused my game, listening closely. Maybe my mom had gone up there to put decorations away, but it was too late for that. The noises stopped. Curious, I got up and peeked into the hallway. That is when I noticed the attic door was open. Before I could process that, I heard faint sounds from downstairs. Specifically noises in the kitchen, the faint clatter of something being moved, then the fridge door closing. My heart started pounding. I quietly crept down the hallway to my parents' bedroom, eased the door open and saw both of them sound asleep. My stomach dropped. I went over and gently shook my dad awake. "Dad," I whispered, "there is someone in the house." He blinked, confused. "What, I heard someone in the kitchen," I said quietly. "They were in the attic before that. I think someone is hiding up there." My dad was not a big or confrontational guy. He kept a police baton under the bed, though I do not think he ever thought he would actually need to use it. He told me to stay put, got out of bed, and quietly peeked out into the hall. A moment later he came back in and whispered that he had seen someone climbing back into the attic. He immediately locked the bedroom door and called 911. By then my mom had woken up too, but we all stayed quiet and tried not to panic. It felt like forever before the police arrived. When they finally did, my dad went downstairs to unlock the front door. The officers entered and pulled the attic ladder down. A few minutes later they found a man crouched behind the wall of storage bins, the same area where I had heard those noises earlier. He looked messy, dirty, and clearly had not been living anywhere decent for a while. The police said he was straightforward about what happened. The day before he had seen our front door slightly open and slipped inside, because he had nowhere to sleep. He had taken one of our old blankets from the closet and brought a jar of peanut butter up there to eat. It was disturbing to think about. He had been right above my room the whole time, and I cannot stop wonder,